Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. We have had a little bit of disruption in our tweet decoding because this is July 4th week for Americans and our schedules are kind of crazy. So I want to go back to a tweet on July 3rd and pick it up from there, and then we're going to be doing the tweets of July 4th and what we have today for July 5th. So ready to go, Thomas, pain in the ass of the globalists?
Yes, Betsy, I am. It's such an honor to do the Trump tweets, the T drops with you. I can't imagine a higher honor.
Oh, well, people ask, some of the people that have just joined us say, what does that mean about T clearance? And you want to explain what that is?
Well, it's Trump clearance. It's the highest clearance you can get in the United States of America. And nobody has that clearance except him. And so when he does his drops, we have to interpret them because they're way more than what they appear to be. You have to really be studied if you're going to understand Trumpism and what it is he's trying to get across, because he is masterful at creating memes, at creating sound bites, at creating tweets that take down his enemies.
Okay, so the one I pulled from July 3rd that really we do have to discuss because it was such a huge one is, wow, the NSA has deleted 685 million phone calls and text messages. Privacy violations. They blame technical irregularities. Such a disgrace. The witch hunt continues.
It is such a disgrace. First off, why are they collecting them? That's illegal. And the NSA can't lose them. That's a lie. And if they're telephone calls, then AT&T and all the other companies still have them. That's a lie. They cannot delete them. If you were to delete them, it could not possibly be a technical irregularity, because that irregularity, there's triple redundant systems in these things. There's no way that you could accidentally delete them. The ones they deleted were the intercepted conversations, telephone conversations of the Trump team. Those are the 685 million. Now, you may think that's a lot, but it was every member on the Trump team, 2 jumps upstream, 2 jumps downstream. That is huge amounts. Now, why is this important? Because he's basically saying no matter how you cut the pie, it was a security violation. And that they would come out and say that they deleted it could be for only one reason. That later they're going to say, sorry, Mr. Trump, the Department of Justice will say to the Congress, sorry, Mr. Congress people, you can't get what you're asking for. We accidentally deleted them. Just like the 55,000 page struck text messages. Where are they? Where are they? They deleted them.
But I guarantee you, if an average citizen had an answer like that for the IRS, oops, my files were burnt in an office fire, you would not get a pass.
Oh, no. Oh, only when you are part of the in crowd, when you know enough senior executive service members to cover any crime, then you can act with great impunity in D.C. But what he's saying here is privacy violations, yes. We know that Robert Hannigan came from Britain, used Fort Meade, Maryland, the head of the NSA, to spy on the Trump team when he was at Trump Towers. We know that Admiral Rogers went there and told Trump, you're being spied on here. You're completely wiretapped, not only on everybody's cell phones. And by the way, this isn't just cell phones. Why would they not have the emails? Why would they not have the text messages? Why would they focus in on telephone conversations? Because those are the ones unmasked by Susan Rice. They were listening every single day, hoping that they could catch the Trump team making an error, doing something that they do all the time, which is normal illegality, normal lies, falsehoods, the normal type of swamp-isms that derive these federal agencies. Could they catch them? No. So then they had to try to set Trump up. And so they sent in their, what did they call them? Not their spies and not their agents, but they were informants to help the Trump team. And as you can see, I'm getting very sarcastic and facetious because this type of surveillance is what it's all about. The people who were involved in it all need to go to jail because it's illegal. Even under the NDAA, you must have FISA court permission domestically or internationally to do this type of intercept. And they don't. And we know that because no one will answer the questions about FISA warrants, will they? Concerning Carter Page, George Papadopoulos, concerning anything to do with spying on Trump. And it always comes back to, I love this, that they appoint somebody who's the head of counterintelligence or in counterintelligence. That means a lying, deceptive, subterfuge, horrible person. That's what they do for a living. And then they take these people and then they try to cover them with national security coverance to say, oh, it's all right. They can do whatever they want. It's for national security purposes, Mr. President. We are trying to create a coup d'etat against you, but it's for national security purposes. So that's what this message is all about. And it's much, much bigger than Trump can say, because he can't say one word wrong or they criticize him. Just like, with Scott Pruitt, the second he got in there, he would, well, we'll get to Scott Pruitt in a minute, but it's the same kind of thing. Everyone on his team is analyzed with a microscope, whereas everyone on Obama's team could do whatever they want, act lawlessly with complete impunity, but not Trump team.
Okay, very good. Now, remember, folks, if you want to follow along and read these tweets, there is a link in the description box that'll take you to a single page that gives you that, and also a couple of surprises at the bottom. The next tweet reads, the OPEC monopoly must remember that gas prices are up and they are doing little to help. If anything, they're driving prices higher as the United States defends many of their members for very little money. This must be a two-way street. Reduce pricing now.
Every moment that they hesitate, after this is the second time he's told them to stop doing the normal summer rip-off of America, which is to say you're going to produce less oil in the summertime. So when we are driving the most in America, we have to pay the greatest price. This is a Henry Kissinger plan. This has been going on all my life. It's stupid. Trump is breaking the habit. And the habit is going to be, and he is telling Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Salman, look, dude, I told you, you want to raise our prices on oil? I'm going to raise your prices to defend you. We will simply leave Saudi Arabia. We will simply no longer defend you. And look what happens when we aren't there to defend them. Look what Iran did in Yemen to attack Saudi Arabia, missile after missile after missile, going right after Riyadh, right after the crown prince and the family of Saud. So what's happening here is your standard thing, which is OPEC rips us off, and Trump is saying, no, no, no. If you do that, I'm going to simply raise the price of what you pay for us to defend you. It's very simple.
Hey, bring those people back, those troops back, and put them on the southern border, because it looks like we've got a real enemy down there in Mexico with the new president and his threats to take over America.
Absolutely, and we're going to go there in a minute.
Okay. The next tweet is a happy birthday, America, and this was for July 4th, and the link is there. You can watch it. But what I thought was interesting, for me at least, was listening to Trump talk about the history of America briefly. It's not a long video, and about how we won the American Revolution and all that entailed. And of course, as I'm listening, I'm going, yeah, that's really great. But as we know, the Brits still have control of us, and it is possible that we could say that we never won the American Revolution. And I've put all that information at the bottom of the link that's in the description box, so that if you don't believe this outrageous statement, you can see for yourself the proof we found. You know, it just reminds me of good luck, Britain, thinking that you're going to take over America, because Americans all believe that July 4th is our Independence Day.
Yes, and what you've said is so true, and what Trump said was correct. A member of the conclave reminded me yesterday. He went down the list of what happened to the signers of the Declaration of Independence. They suffered more than you can imagine. I had forgotten this in history, though I have a degree in history. You often forget these things. When I was reminded of it, I was absolutely shocked to realize that we didn't win the American Revolution just by looking at what happened to the signers of the Declaration of Independence and then looking at the War of 1812. That was Britain coming over to simply stomp on us, burn down Washington, D.C., because in 1800 they had decided to truly coordinate the three branches of government in the District of Columbia. And so they came over, they destroyed everything they could, and yet they still didn't destroy America. It never ended. The War of 1812 never ended, and the War of Independence never ended. So we are in the Second American Revolution. We're trying to get our constitutional republic back. It's happening day by day. It's slow because the bureaucracy, the senior executive service members, and the bureaucracy want to make sure that we don't have freedom in America.
Well,
I'm sorry to have to say that.
Our government has been farmed out to Serco, to the Crown agents, to Brit Control. So this is what we're talking about. But nevertheless, yes, July 4th, it was a great celebration, but we continue to need to do a lot of work.
I think that Trump, because he's ending the $80 billion that's poured out through USAID, because he's ending OPEC, and he's going to sever our relationships, no one wants to admit it yet, with the World Trade Organization and the World Bank. Basically, instead of shooting our guns into the air and ringing the Liberty Bell, we basically pointed those muskets back at Britain at this time, and we're saying, get out. And this time, get out permanently. And people don't understand this, that he's already taken these actions. Even with SES, he's downsizing the entire government. So these, we're going to keep hearing the shots of the muskets in the air declaring our independence, even to this very day, if we listen carefully.
Okay, Congress must pass smart, fast, and reasonable immigration laws now. Law enforcement at the border is doing a great job, but the laws they are forced to work with are insane. When people with or without children enter our country, they must be told to leave without our country being forced to endure a long and costly trial. Tell the people out, and they must leave, just as they would if they were standing on your front lawn. Hiring thousands of judges does not work, and it is not acceptable. Only country in the world that does this.
He makes it clear every single time he addresses these issues because it's the issue for the next election. He's already hammered and won the other issues of tax, of trade, of the economy, of military support, of no support or lack of support for Planned Parenthood and things like this. He's already won all those, but he can't win this one because we don't have a border. If we had a border wall, out would be on the Mexican side. It'd be on the wall. Stay out. You wouldn't even have to tell them because there'd be a wall. And these walls are going up throughout all of Europe. They're all over the place. These walls are being built because of the crazy, insane, as he says, concept of open borders. That's a George Soros concept. And it's a socialist concept taken from liberation theology. It's a Jesuit concept of basically turning democracies into a socialistic, Marxist-leaning type of economy because that is more conducive to the Catholic Church's, let's just call it their agenda. So what he's saying here is this is insane, and right now he keeps emphasizing this. This is on Congress. With these elections, Senate and Congress, it is all about you. Are you going to pass laws that are smart, fast, and reasonable? Real laws right now? No, they're not. And so what he's showing is sorry for those rhinos, those Republicans in name only. He underscores this. It is not his job to write immigration law. Neither is it his job, or should be his job, to give amnesty to anyone or to do what Obama did, which is deregulate things and then cause the holdup of people who come to a non-border, step across it, and they get a lawyer. 445,000 people, illegal invaders into our country, are waiting for a court date. We don't know where they are. Almost none of them show up for their court date. But we have to appoint judges who spend millions and millions and millions of dollars, as much money probably spent on these judges and the insanity to support these people who come into this country illegally, as we would spend on the border wall, which would stop it completely. Then you would it'd be like your house. I love the meme that you had in Truth News Headlines. When You want to be an open borders supporter? Open your front door and leave it.
It starts at home. Open borders starts at home. So if you're pro open borders, keep your front door wide open so people can come in. And you know, they're not called rhinos anymore. They're called Democrats in disguise. And it seems like a very basic question that voters need to ask their upcoming elections to Democrats and Republicans. Very simply, where do you stand on the border wall?
Precisely, because if you're going to stand there with Antifa and Black Lives Matters and the fascists who are out there saying death to ICE members, death to the people who actually protect our country, death to policemen, end all jails, end all police, end all immigration, complete open borders, have no immigration whatsoever. Anyone can come and go as they please. That's the new Democratic platform. Amazing that they have gone this far into anarchy, into insane rhetoric that nobody believes. Nobody is going to believe any of this anymore. In Europe, the invaders there, do they get literally a lawyer appointed to them? And during the time that they're waiting to determine whether or not their illegal activity, which is obviously illegal because they conducted it, they stepped across the border illegally, and they are not seeking asylum, people. Asylum is a very, very narrow window for those who think that asylum is what it's all about. And for those who think that it's the children we're protecting, you're stupid. They're doing DNA tests right now to prove. Now, they've been able to determine that 85 to 87% of the children coming across the border do not belong to the people who are human trafficking them across the border. Now we'll probably find out it's 100% because we're going to do DNA testing. So thanks, all you open border people who want to have more judges dealing with the 445,000 people who have lawyers appointed to them, and usually after we spend all the money on their case, they don't even show up. What about the hungry children, the poor children, the homeless children in America who are American citizens? We need to stop saying open borders, and we need to start saying, let's take care of America and America first, because we have millions of people that we should be helping that we're not, and we're spending billions of dollars on people who are filling our jails. 45% of the people in jails in America are illegal aliens.
And we need to get them out because we need room in the prisons right now for all these corrupt folks in Washington. So he concludes that thought with the next tweet, which reads, Congress, fix our insane immigration laws now.
And because they won't answer this, they've answered it. Their non-answers, their pathetic attempts at those legislation, again, that falls on its face because no one would possibly believe that any of those laws or bills that were put forth would work. They can't work because the Democrats are not going to ever want to solve the issue of immigration, because that's where 22 million votes hang there to be grabbed by people who can be influenced through subliminal programming, television, media, saying Democrats love illegal aliens. No, they don't. They don't love anybody. Look at what Hillary Clinton and John Podesta said about the people in the last presidential election, about their base. They derided everyone in their base. So don't believe for one second that the Democrats are in any way going to help anybody. They even want to take back the tax refunds that you got. They want to make sure that you don't get bonuses. They want to make sure that the manufacturing does go back out to other countries like Obama did, and that we let them put huge, huge barriers and tariffs on us, but we can't do anything to them.
The next two tweets are related. I'll read them together. I have accepted the resignation of Scott Pruitt as the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Within the agency, Scott has done an outstanding job, and I will always be thankful to him for this. The Senate confirmed Deputy at EPA Andrew Wheeler will on Monday assume duties as the acting administrator of the EPA. I have no doubt that Andy will continue on with our great and lasting EPA agenda. We have made tremendous progress, and the future of the EPA is very bright.
Nothing's going to stop Trump's plan in the EPA. They went after Scott the second he was elected, and they have been hammering on him. So everything he did wrong, they brought to light. And they have multiple investigations, over a dozen investigations on him, but they haven't investigated Andrew McCabe, James Comey, James Clapper, John Brennan, or any of the other criminals. But they spend all that effort going after Scott Pruitt. 12 investigations. And what are these for? Because he wanted to fly first class because his life had been threatened so many times that he had to have a security detail. Well, because he had a security detail and he needed to fly first class, well, look at the heads of the other agencies. They have their own private jets. So when you want to talk about what they charged him with, it's almost stupid. 75% of it is pure stupid. 25% of it is he was extremely naive not to realize he was going to be battered and abused. But it doesn't matter. He still carried forth he stopped Obama's EPA ripoff of America and a sellout to the world. The Climate Accord alone was a $5 trillion savings for America, and it was all based upon lies. Look out there right now. Any research is showing you all the climate numbers were fake. So what we have, EPA is going to go ahead very quickly, and Scott Pruitt's out. Good, because he was just creating such a stir. He was being silly. He made too many mistakes. Most of them are not crimes. So they're threatening the summer crimes. I predict right now, Thomas Paine in the ass of the globalists, that he will not be convicted of a single crime because those are all made up fake justice as a distraction, while that same 117,000 group of people in the Department of Justice are defending Imran Awan and his espionage, defending Hillary Clinton and John Podesta for their election rigging, and on and on and on. So, sorry, Scott, you're out, but it's a good thing because Trump doesn't need any more flack. And Wheeler will do just as good a job.
Yeah, I hear, and what I read about Andrew Wheeler is that he's pro-coal, he's pro-energy independence, so it sounds like he's going to just continue on where they were headed. The next tweet is, "It was my great honor to join proud, hardworking American patriots in Montana tonight. I love you. Thank you." We watched that, and it was so invigorating. What a great speech. And it's just like Trump is coming into his own now, and he's really invigorating our base.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was like you were having tea with him somewhere in New York, and he was just, no one was around, and he was just telling you the way it is. It was just beautiful. And as you say, he's coming into his own. He's being more bold. And I don't know how they're going to stop him. This is a tsunami, exactly as we predicted. But it is not a tsunami of water. It is a tsunami of magma. And it is going to simply wipe out the Democratic Party, or the Democrats, or like I like to call them, demon rats. Because really, who are these Democrats? Look at the far left now. They're not Democrats. Was Bernie a Democrat? He ran as a Democrat. That's a lie. He was a socialist. Oh, that's right. Just before that, he was a Democrat. Oh, that's right. He wasn't a socialist. Oh, the new Socialist Party. They literally say they're socialists and they're running as Democrats. How can that be? That's not possible. That'd be like Rand Paul saying that he's running as a Republican. This is stupid. And anyone who wants to vote for people like that are voting for insanity, because what they're promising you cannot take place. It's just like the Democrats who want to say open borders. Not possible. Look at Europe. Not possible. And in a minute, let's look at Europe and the fact that everything that we had said has now come to light. Matter of fact, maybe I should focus on that right now because it's not in these. It's just been discovered exactly as we had predicted, that all of the boats picking the invaders up from North Africa and from Turkey, they had to come across the water, didn't they? 7 companies, all lying, flying under false flag. And Malta, the island of Malta, has arrested one of the captains, and they're impounding the ships. And they're flying under false flag, saying they're Dutch, but they're actually German. And this is Merkel, who used German tax dollars to pay 7 non-government organizations, all sponsored by Soros also, German Doctors Without Borders, SOS Mediterranean, Lifeline. Oh, they're all lovely names. All lies. They literally went and picked these people up and didn't bring them to Germany, who was paying the boats to pick them up. And we've said from the beginning, had they simply picked them up in boats and brought them to Hamburg, and the Germans took who they wanted and sent back the ones who were lying, who were actually, in fact, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Syrian fighters. These are invaders, folks.
Well, if the German people want this type of immigration invasion in their country, fine, let them do it. But every country around Germany needs to build very big, tall walls and have strong immigration policies.
And when the new president of Italy was elected, he said, no, we're not going to accept these ships coming into our ports anymore. They are pirate ships. These are false flag ships. And they're now being convicted. The ships are being impounded. And Merkel's little plan with George Soros has been discovered. And so now, because it had been discovered, we had told you this from years ago, that what was he going to do? Oh, he'll just simply charge a tax. He's going to charge between $60 to $80 billion tax to the European Union. Instead of getting the boats to bring them, he'll still use the same boats, but he'll first screen them for asylum. Well, the way he's going to screen them is, what country are you from? I'm from Sudan. You have asylum. What country are you from? Nigeria. Oh, well, you have asylum. What country are you from? Somalia. Oh, well, you have asylum. They're at war. Of course, they're seeking to get out of a country that's at war. Now let's look at who caused those wars. That would be Susan Rice, Barack Obama, the Brits, the French, the Russians, the Chinese. They're all fighting over the resources in Africa. And so when they become war-torn areas, of course, these refugees happen. But refugees are big money for the Vatican, big money for the United Nations, big money for the fake companies that take care of these refugees.
Not only the money that they're paid, but also the human trafficking revenue that comes from dealing with the exchange and the sale of humans, either in whole or part. So
exactly
what I'm saying, and that's what's happening in our southern border too. I mean, when you look at the line of trafficking that goes right up the districts of Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, right up to Canada, you see that. Well, that leads right into the next tweet, which is what we're talking about. A vote for Democrats in November is a vote to let MS-13 run wild in our communities, to let drugs pour into our cities, and to take jobs and benefits away from hardworking Americans. Democrats want anarchy, amnesty, and chaos. Republicans want law, order, and justice.
This just underscores what we were saying a minute ago. Make sure that in that meme, there's a gang of MS-13 standing outside your house when you open your door for your virtue signaling that you want to have open borders. Make certain that at least a gang of 24 MS-13 guys are standing there looking at your children, and that you open that door and you welcome them in, because that's what we're doing. That's the anarchy. That's extreme open borders Democrats, or as I like to call them, not the Democrats. These are anarchists.
Well, can't we get Maxine Waters' address and drop off the next shipment right there in her front yard?
Actually, they come right through her. She's one of the ones who's trafficking these people. She's one of the ones supporting it. She's one of the ones who doesn't want the borders in California. She's one of the ones who is welcoming this. She wants chaos. And look at the way she speaks. All she wants is chaos. It's all she can say out of her mouth. She's been nothing but a riot promoter. She's in one of the most violent places in America. Well, Rahm Emanuel has topped her now in Chicago, but she literally promotes chaos. She promotes amnesty to criminals who cause total chaos in her own district. She's not... Any one of you in her district that votes for her, you should be ashamed of yourself. It's disgraceful. She's voting for anarchy. She's voting for chaos. She's voting for 22 million criminals who came into this country through criminal activity to have amnesty. She is an extreme open border Democrat.
Well, she benefits from this kind of chaos.
Oh, she absolutely does. And we have to remember that in Obama's time, he took billions and billions and billions of dollars. I could go into all the different programs he stole it from. For instance, the SEC. Every time, let's just take for instance, when Comey was defending HSBC, where also Mueller worked at one point and defended them when they had a multi-$100 billion case against them, and Comey got it down to, simply a few $100 million, the price of doing business, though it was a complete ripoff. It was completely illegal. Everything they did was illegal in that case, and no one went to jail because Comey went there and mitigated the situation. And because Michael Horowitz had already been there to tell the judges how to sentence these people and the corporations how to get out of the sentencing and how to get out of the crime. So my point is that this type of corruption is so thick, it's so deep, that when Obama takes these billions of dollars when he was the president and he steals them from the SEC after they get these fines put on them. They don't go back to the victims. They went to Obama, and Obama gave them to non-governmental organizations here in America, Democratic, left-wing, literally socialist-leaning, fascist-leaning Marxist groups. Antifa, Black Lives Matter, Southern Poverty Law Center. These are corrupt. Two of them have been acknowledged as domestic terrorists, and yet Obama is the one who fed them unlimited funds stolen from taxpayers.
But you can't do that because Obama was the first black president. And if people can get over that myth, no, he's Indonesian.
Obama was given all the money for his run as a senator after he had been basically refined as a weapon with the Chicago mob control of Chicago, the daily political group that controlled Chicago through the mobs. He rose up through that with Valerie Jarrett, along with Michelle Obama, and then Soros came along and gave him all the money he needed to become a senator. Soros chose Barack Obama because he was already a CIA agent. He was a rogue CIA agent who faked his way through Columbia, faked his way through Occidental, faked his way through Harvard. You can't find any records of him there. All of his records are sealed. You have one record at Harvard. One record at Harvard. And that record is him arguing with the head of the Harvard Review, where Obama is justifying why, though he has done nothing at Harvard, no one knows him, he's never written a thing, he wrote an article that got in the Harvard Review, and they said that he was an editor of the Harvard Review, though he wrote one article, and that was an article bashing the Harvard Review for not allowing more blacks to be editors on the Harvard Review. That's his entire history of college, folks.
I'm sorry.
That's all we have.
Okay, the next tweet. Every day, the brave men and women of ICE are liberating communities from savage gangs like MS-13. We will not stand for these vile Democrat smears in law enforcement. We will stand proudly with the brave heroes of ICE and Border Patrol.
I hope you don't think that we are alarmists or sensationalists, or that in any way that what we're saying is an exaggeration. We're at war. We are in a civil war of NGOs, non-government organizations, given $18 billion by George Soros from stolen tax funds that he took out of America with his quantum hedge fund. And we are at war with them. We're at war with those who stole the personal information of ICE officers and put their families and children in danger, more danger than illegal aliens are coming across our southern border, are in much less danger than now these anarchist Democrats who have declared war against ICE, declared war against the police. The Black Lives Matter declared war against the police a long time ago. They're domestic terrorists, Antifa, domestic terrorists. And also, let's remember, we have all kinds of people coming up out through Mexico who are placed there. We have Al-Qaeda, we have ISIS, we have Hezbollah. They're all coming, folks. And Orduro, the new president of Mexico, a complete socialist Marxist fascist who said he is giving complete amnesty to all drug cartels? That's because 134 people were murdered during this election cycle. 681 others were shot but not killed, and hundreds of other journalists were killed. There is a war in Mexico, not only a cartel drug war, but a war of human trafficking, and the politicians now have sold out. The president of Mexico is in war with us, has declared war with us, whether you know it or not. Listen to his acceptance speech. Look at his planks in his platform. The first plank is all Mexicans have a human civil right to be able to cross the American border, go into America illegally, make money, and send it back to Mexico. He just told all Mexicans that's what they need to do. That is a war, folks. And Trump was in advance of understanding this was going to happen. That's why we need that border wall now. That's why we need, as Betsy just said, bring back all our troops from the 164 bases in hundreds of countries all over the world. Why are they there? To protect American corporate interests. NATO doesn't exist. NATO is a myth, folks. We don't need any of those troops there. Who are we protecting? Who are we at war with? We're at war economically with China. who's at war with Taiwan right now. We're ignoring that except to bring Foxconn over to Wisconsin, and Trump basically undercut China and that war that they're having with Taiwan. We're in a war with Mexico. The tariff wars? No. People don't understand. He can't lose. No matter what happens, he can't lose. You need to sit back and just be quiet and let the master of the deal do the deal. And on the border, why does he hammer on this? Because the obstructionists are also in the Republican Party, the entire Senate, the Congress, filled with obstructionists. They don't want a border.
No, they're globalists. They want our country to be overrun so that they can take over it.
Absolutely. And what we're seeing, like we said a minute ago, 45% of all prisoners in American prisons are illegal aliens. We are the holding pin for the MS-13s and for the worst criminals in Mexico, except the cartel dealers who are killing thousands of people. I don't know how many thousands of bodies have been found on the border in this last year. Untold. I was going to start doing a report on this, but I started looking into it. You know, there's mass graves found almost, every week or two on the border? Nobody even knows who all those people are. Who are they killing? Those are human trafficked people. When we say there's 22 million illegal aliens in this country, we're about the only ones who are saying that, except for the people who are doing the true calculations. But that's a low estimate. But think of that. Half of them, more than half of them, don't exist. If they come up missing, no one's going to notice. If they steal a dead person's social security number and vote, nobody's going to notice. They can pay taxes and receive tax returns off of a dead person's social security number, and Social Security doesn't care. IRS doesn't care.
Well, look at the guy at Homeland Security under Obama. He claimed a couple of social security numbers from children.
Absolutely. The head of ICE previously had 3 children who had fake Social Security, fake children who had fake Social Security numbers, who he made $190,000 off of tax evasion. That's who Obama's head of ICE is. That's how brave he was. But the real people doing it now, they're putting their life on the line because MS-13 is no one to mess with. These people live by the pride of murdering others, and just not normal murders. It has to be absolutely visceral. It must be, enjoyed. These are the worst people you could possibly have, and yet they are part of the Pelosi party. They're part of the anarchist Democrats. They're part of the extreme open borders Democrats.
And then we wrap up today's Trump tweet decodes with this one. Thanks to Republican leadership, America is winning again, and America is being respected again all over the world because we are finally putting America first.
I remember they used to make fun of Obama. Not as much, we didn't get to make fun of Obama. It was almost illegal at that time because then you'd have Loretta Lynch or Al Sharpton or Eric Holder coming out and saying that language they don't like has to go to jail. I mean, literally, they said this, that you can't say things they don't like. But now I'm going to go ahead and say this. It was said of President Obama when he would meet the Chinese, maybe you should put lipstick on before you bend over and have relations with China. Because that's all Obama ever did, was he bent over and let China rip us off historically, epically. There was no leadership in the Democratic Party. There was rip-off-ship. Obama was basically doing what George Soros told him to do, create open borders, create an invasion of Europe, and create chaos everywhere, and make sure that every country you can has chaos. And Hillary, she's just a rip-off artist. All she wanted was more enrichment, and so her pay-to-play and power. But once she became president, folks, you were going to see some horrible, horrible things. Trump said it the other day because he was simply quoting the 17 intelligence agencies report, The Paradox of Progress, which I keep hearing like other people quoting now. But he basically said there would have been a nuclear war with Korea. Yes, that was planned. There would have been a nuclear bomb. He didn't say this, but in that report it said, and Hillary said, she was going to bomb Damascus and just bomb every single airfield in Syria. In other words, she had planned as her first deal to follow through with what the James Clapper and his gang, the Comey gang and the whole Brennan gang, they all said, we need World War III. And she was going to do that. That was the leadership of the Democratic Party, or as I like to call them, the demon rats, or the anarchist party, because that's what they want. And if you look at why they want that, it's because when there's chaos, people like George Soros sweep in and become economic terrorists and basically rip off the country because of a currency war. It's the currency wars of George Soros that have brought down 14 elections, 14 nations, basically. He almost brought down Britain. They call him the man who destroyed the pound. In one day, he almost destroyed the entire economy of Britain. He's done this in Asia, in Malaysia, in countries all over the world, and he still continues, and he's doing it in America. So when you say what is the Democratic leadership, if you look at the WikiLeaks, you will see that Podesta and Hillary were taking their orders from George Soros. What is the Republican leadership? He's making a joke here, folks. There ain't no Republican leadership. Here's the Republican leadership. Him and Jim Jordan and Devin Nunes and sometimes Grassley and sometimes Goodlate and a couple others, but only occasionally. That's mostly, a lot of that's political grandstanding, and it's soapbox preaching for political purposes. So who is the leadership of the Republican Party? It is Donald Trump. And where is the platform? It's right here in his tweets. Where are his planks? It's right there in his speeches that he gives every time he has a rally, because he knows those rallies will be covered. He knows those rallies reach more people than anything else on television. And he knows that the Republicans out there that are running, he needs to support if they're MAGA supporters. And if they're not, he needs to make perfectly clear what the true planks of the Republican Party are. And that's what he's doing. And he's providing the best leadership, actually. And we see that historically in the numbers. We see it with jobs, with the economy, with everything. And so if you want to talk about Republican leadership, you would have to say that as far as we know in modern times, Trump is the greatest leader of the Republican Party, because he has now gone beyond Ronald Reagan, especially knowing that after the second year of Ronald Reagan's administration, he had Alzheimer's, and George H.W. Bush, his vice president, really ran things. So if you look at that, then you would have to say, yes, absolutely. In 1 year, Trump has already outstripped all other Republicans in modern history. And by the time he gets elected for his second term, he will be the greatest of all Republican presidents, and perhaps the greatest president of all times.